I'm going to share a short reading with you. I was going to share a song lyric, but the more that I read it and reread it, it just doesn't come out right reading it. And the music is so devastatingly beautiful. So I just thought I would recommend it to you. It's a song off of an album called Motherland by our wondrous genius local musician Natalie Merchant, and the song is called "This House is on Fire." It's been out for a while, but it's just so incredibly beautiful and so appropriate to capture sort of a collective mood that many of us are feeling. So I just didn't want to kind of chop it up by turning it into a spoken word when it's just so musically beautiful. So I'll just give you that recommendation if you're open to it. The other thing I was going to share, one of the things I wanted to remind everyone is just about the three basic principles of yin yoga, because I'm always encouraging you to cultivate a home practice, because this practice is just incredibly beneficial when it's done consistently. It doesn't have to be done 2 hours every day or even every day, but if you're able to do it more consistently, the body responds in a positive way, and then you sort of get to know it, that you can begin to sort of micromanage not only the physical body, but it's very powerful on an emotional level too, when these emotions start to contract. So the three basic principles is to simply, first and foremost, come to a depth in the position that feels appropriate to you. Yeah, so this is what we call playing our edges, where it's very personal to you. We don't go in too deep or have some preconceived idea of what the pose should even really look like or how deep we should go. So you want to keep that in mind, that go to an appropriate edge. And the second thing is to become relatively still. And the stillness is to allow you to sink in with just a general connection and a sensitivity to what's going on, not only with your body, but with your breathing and your mind and your heart. So the stillness is not to be held as some sort of disciplinary technique, but to allow you this sensitivity. And then adjustments and withdrawing and going deeper are within that container of stillness. And then certainly holding for time. And again, that is very unique because, in a general class where I don't really know anybody, and especially now where I can't see everyone, the holds range on the short end from 3-4 minutes, sometimes 10 to 12 to 15 minutes. So this may or may not be appropriate for you, but that time is where the compression really starts to evoke an internal process. So I was thinking about this today, and then since I decided to reject reading you Natalie's song, "This House is on Fire," I'm just going to read this short passage that really speaks to the basics of yin from a book called Yoga, the Spirit and Practice of Moving into Stillness. Eric Schiffman, one of my very beloved teachers, Eric wrote this book in 1996. And he's an interesting guy because he sort of was a very early Iyengar teacher, and philosophically comes from the tradition of Krishnamurti and kind of blended the two. But what's interesting about Eric is he saw in his maturation that fundamentally, way back, Iyengar had a lot of yin elements in his approach to the yoga. I think before it came a bit westernized and stylized. But he really emphasizes this sort of intuitive yin aspect of yoga, even though primarily he's an Iyengar teacher. So I'm just going to share this very short passage with you that I think speaks to sort of the intuitive way we can do this yoga on our own, and the three principles of the yin, which is to come to an appropriate depth, come into an appropriate stillness, and hold for an appropriate level of time. And what he's really talking, this is sort of out of context, but he's talking about yoga as really the exploration and the science of no separation and what that actually means, and how to really explore that for oneself firsthand, and which is very possible for us class to class and moment to moment. So he says, in yoga, separation comes to an end when you allow the breath to replace the thinking mind as the guiding impulse behind movement and stretch. This involves merging so thoroughly with the breath that you are not thinking about anything else. This moment, this breath, this now is all important. You immerse yourself so totally that the usual separation between you and the pose dissolves. And that's very beautiful. That's pure yin. I'll just repeat that. You immerse yourself so totally that the usual separation between you and the pose dissolves. This makes it easier to listen to your body. Instead of pushing your body around with only your muscles or your mind, you learn to be guided from within, only moving when your body says it's ready. You learn to push when that is appropriate, and you learn to wait, hold back, or retreat when that is appropriate. Appropriateness is something you cannot anticipate in advance. Knowing when to push or when to yield is fundamentally only knowable in the living instant of each new moment. Being sensitive in this way is the result of having merged and become one with the pose. As you merge the pose with the breathing, you will feel the breath gently nudging, coaxing, opening, stretching, and relaxing your muscles and various tight areas. These areas are contracted energy, contracted parts of you. Releasing them, therefore, will not only give you more energy, but it will make you more comfortable in your body as well. So let's take a few moments to consciously breathe, and just with this imagery of merging. So allowing the breath to merge and to flow with the thoughts, and allowing the breath to flow and to merge with the body. And just to feel this, just to feel that, only when the mind is very active and very, chattering and distracted, will we be able to feel a separation. But if we truly relax and we truly just simply allow, we don't have to make this happen because it's already the case. So just a simple allowing of the breath to merge with whatever it is you consider your sense of self, whether that is mental or physical or emotional or all three. Now the quiet inner contemplation, that is yoga. Good. So wherever you are, let's make your way up to a sitting position, please. And get out your large bolster. And if you don't have a large bolster, just get yourself something that you can bring to this height. And then actually we're going to go from the large bolster to the small bolster. So let's just say this would be, I have just 2 blankets and a towel. So if you're using the blankets and a towel, what then you can do when we're done with the big bolster is just simply roll the blanket up so it mimics the bolster, the small bolster. So we'll use that after we use this big bolster. Okay, so just take the whatever you're using for support just to put under the knees. And the reason I like to do this, especially to begin, and you can either leave the feet apart or you can bring the soles of the feet together and just maybe sway and loosen up the hips and the shoulders. So the reason I elevate the femurs to this level and relax the knees is to help us isolate this compression from the torso and the shoulders and the skull more directly into the lower back. Yeah. So it just is a way to kind of bring a sense of specificity, if you will, without dealing with the hips and the knees right away. So just let the lower body be very comfortable and supported. The big bolster works well, but if you are using pillows or blankets, it's have the same effect. And then to begin here, just let's start with the weight of the skull and the relaxing of the shoulders. And we want to be able to sort of feel the muscular ripples, if you will, or reverberations down into the mid-spine. So it's not a hinging from the lower back. It's really a connecting from the upper cervical spine into the neck and the shoulders with the weight of the head and the torso. And then when you reach an appropriate, yes, that's a good word today, the appropriate depth for yourself, and maybe into the lower back, maybe not, then just begin to rest. You can just let your hands come wherever they're most comfortable and supportive. Just let the head relax down. And if it feels too intense in the neck, you can put a blanket there to support it. Another thing you can explore is you can explore going into that tension, and again, at an appropriate depth, and then periodically just releasing it. So as long as you feel safe, this is what we call pendulation, where you go to what you think is your edge, stay there until you feel it really needs to withdraw, and that's totally appropriate, and then withdraw a bit. Make sure you release, relax, regroup, feel safe, and then go back in. So again, what I was saying earlier is that the stillness is relative to what you're working on, especially if there's, injury or, tenderness or sensitivity, or you're just not sure. Then very naturally and very organically, everything just will reveal itself if we slow down enough and take our time and listen and relax. So very organically, just allow the breath to begin this merging. You don't have to go from here to there. You don't have to make it happen. You don't have to even understand what that means. But an allowing the breath to merge with the thoughts. Any feelings that are arising, allowing the breath to merge with those feelings. And the same thing with the physical body. We hear so much in, different yogas to, breathe into it. But we're not literally breathing oxygen. That would be the function of the respiratory system. By allowing the breath to merge, we're using the breath to explore these very sort of micro sensitive areas of the body. And so this is a lovely imagery. We're just allowing the breath to merge with our sense of self, however we're experiencing that self. And I'm just going to repeat this. This is beautiful from what I read. You immerse yourself so totally that the usual separation between you and the pose dissolves. This is really the essence of yin yoga, is to relax from our preconcerns with the pose. And I would also add to that with the body itself, the body as a physical mechanism. And then we're just allowing the organic revelation of whatever is there. And even from pose to pose, even within a pose, we can see that often the contraction can be, it often appears very physical, but when we become more sensitive, we can see that, oh no, there's also emotional contractions. There's also mental contractions. And I would also suggest that at some level, most of us have spiritual practices or paths or aspirations that when we look really, really closely, that there are also spiritual contractions as well. The dissolution of the self at the level of this exploration of no separation can bring up many layers, but that's a whole nother story, I guess, or maybe not. Good, so let's come on up from here. And let's take the larger support and put it aside, and then take either the small bolster, or I recommended a nice blanket being rolled up. Then you can open your legs and just put it at the width. So basically it's a little past hip. If you're using a blanket, it's the width of the small bolster. So my kitty here, Freddie, little dog Mercury, he's concerned because I put the computer on his box. He has a box that he likes to curl up in, and I had no idea that he would be harassing me for it. So if you see everything shake on the screen, that means I've decided to give him his box back, but we'll see. He's a pretty mellow guy. So something under the knees, a smaller bolster or a blanket. And again, let this lower body structure be relaxed. We're not going to hinge from the hips. We're going to begin the journey with really feeling the weight of the head, the skull, the brain. All those big brains in there have some weight to them. Relax the shoulders, the rippling reverberation of the muscles down the spine. And you can stop anywhere along the way that you wish to explore, any contractions or tugging or tightness or uncertainty, and come to a place if you need to support yourself or not, and just find a way to settle in. And once we become still, then we just try to, once we become at our appropriate depth, then we become still, and we just allow the time to, allow these compressions to immerse into the body. also, if you would like to just creatively visualize, you can also visualize that the breath is merging with the cells themselves. So allow your vision to be very expansive within the body, and just imagine that the breath is actually saturating and permeating and blending and merging with each and every one of your cells. And just appreciate how these cells thrive and really appreciate the oxygen. This fuels them. Good, so let's come on up now, please. So just roll up from here and just let yourself lie down, or if you'd like to curl on your side, anything that feels comfortable to take a bit of a respite here, and then we're gonna work on the shoulders a bit. So let's take a rest first and let these two forward bends integrate. And I do think at some level, just yoga, if we just take this term yoga, this term that is, can be interpreted really, the Sanskrit is very, very tricky to interpret, but we've sort of come to see it as union or no separation, which is a whole tricky endeavor in itself. But ultimately, and this is what can make it so elusive, is what we're attempting to do with yoga is just create some sort of container to explore our sense of self and how we, in the moment, how we are currently defining ourself. And what becomes tricky about this is often things that are uncomfortable, let's just say feelings, yes, a thought that morphs into a feeling, a physical sensation that morphs into a feeling, just a broad category of feelings. But typically feelings that are uncomfortable, we want to avoid them or we want to suppress them. Yeah, and we've got many lovely techniques for doing that, yes. So what we're attempting to do is hold this container So when these uncomfortable feelings start to arise, we can just face them. We can just sit with them. See what they're actually made of. Indeed, see if they're actually there. So this is the beauty of this level of exploration. And ultimately, this leads to this is sort of the, sort of the back door, if you will, into exploring this yoga of no separation. Because when we cannot avoid and we don't suppress, and we see that this very, very challenging to start to discern the difference between a thought, a feeling, and a sensation. And so what is that? What is that energy? What is this energy that we're continually defining and redefining as ourself? The yoga is saying, no, don't push it away. Don't avoid it. Let's sit with it. Let's sit with this energy. How does this feel? And I think what Eric was suggesting is that breathing is so fundamental, because breathing is typically the vehicle for allowing the prana to enter and release out of the body, to vibrate and aliven the body. So if we can let the breath soften into these more gross areas, if you will, then we're exploring fundamentally the nature of ourself very differently. What is that? Again, what is that energy? Not what am I thinking about? What is my emotional state? All the aches and pains of the body is certainly valid to explore, but what is their energetic texture? What are they made of? What are we made of? Okay, so let's come on up. And I want to do this. We're gonna work into the shoulders a bit here. Twist, twist, and then forward and back. So this may seem like a lot. It may seem a little excessive for the shoulders, but I've been doing this for the last week, and I have to say the results are lovely. Just my neck and my shoulders feel so nice and open. So just take it at your pace, whatever that happens to be. The way we're going to begin is we're going to begin in a child's pose. Yeah. And then a few options here, because we're going to come into a widening child. We did this last week. And what I was suggesting is that this may not be for everyone for the hips. So as we start in child's pose, we'll open the knees out side to side. Yeah. We won't bring the body forward, but we'll just come into a widening child so we can feel what's going on in the hips. If this doesn't work for you, you can just simply slide forward and put the arm under the right elbow without the twist. Yeah, so it works just as well for what we want. This is just a little added treat to make the hips this uncomfortable. But if you're able to maintain this, and then what we'll do is you can extend the right arm out, and then we'll take the left and put it under that right armpit, and I'm just resting down on this left shoulder. You may want a little something for your head or not. So that's up to you. If you want to make the neck more comfortable here, that's perfectly okay. And then if you would like, you can leave the right arm forward, but you also have the option of taking, well, I'll just explain it, to bring the right arm up and around, resting on the lower back. And if you're able to hold on to the inside of the left thigh, this will just kind of bind it up a little bit. We'll just take a perfectly, uncomfortable position and make it a little bit more uncomfortable. So we're resting on the left shoulder, have the knees open, and now if you're grabbing the inside of that inner upper left thigh, that right shoulder is pulling back as well. But if not, you can just let that arm relax and settle into the hips. And then again, just a reminder, if at any point you're like, okay, enough already with the hips, just slide forward and just keep the pressure on that left shoulder, the right side of the body relaxing down. Can't really see it all very well, but that's okay. Oh. Yeah, and so not too long here. This is a very, very complicated area, this rotator cuff, shoulder girdle area. So, again, the amount of time typically would be unique to you. So, doing it by yourself, you may really want to hold it for a long time. Don't be too concerned about just generalized tingling in the shoulder and the arm. If it's not sharp or harsh, it's just most likely circulation being cut off temporarily. Perfectly okay for that. And this then, it becomes a very interesting, process, this exploration of the energetic movement of the body at this level of contracting and expanding. And what I mean by that is part of what we're exploring in our yoga is how to open certain areas. Yes, how to open and not be so attached to our thoughts, not be so attached to our emotional states, and allow the body a degree of openness. So we don't need to continually mentally, emotionally, and physically contract when there's external circumstances that are inviting us to contract. So this is a particularly interesting study that yoga invites us to, that the environment can be stressful, the environment can be out of balance, the environment can even be threatening. And are we able to deal with that appropriately? Yes, take responsibility, but stay open and relaxed at the level of the thoughts and the feelings and the body. Do we have to contract internally? Do we have to have psychological, emotional contraction when the world appears to be contracting? This is, in a sense, what we're studying on a micro level here. What we're saying is when we come into a posture and it becomes uncomfortable, do I have to react? Do I have to change it? Do I have to suppress it? Do I have to, or can I just start to relax? Can I stay open and curious, or do I, and what I mean by I at this moment is simply mind, heart, body, contract because I'm feeling pain or discomfort? So if you do have the right arm around and pulling that right shoulder back, you can just release that now, the right arm. And you can press that right arm on the floor, support yourself coming up, and then just let's release that left arm. If you are in the wide knee position, you can either go right to the other side, if you're good with the hips. What I like to do here, because my hips, is I like to go back to the child's pose and just let the hips relax a little bit and rest. If you're flat on your belly, you could also come back to child's pose just to get a nice little forward bend in, or again, you could go to the other side. So just take your time in this child's pose, however you would like. And then when you feel ready, go ahead and if you're gonna open the knees, open the knees. If you're going on the belly, go back to the belly. And then obviously we'll take the right hand arm, put it onto the floor, that right shoulder. The left arm can relax out in front for support.
Or you can reach around to that right upper inner thigh, or you could just relax the hand on the lower back. This will kind of tug that left shoulder back as well. Something for the head or not. And we'll just do the other side.
And this really is I think it's a valuable and very interesting study, this idea that that the environment needs to dictate how we're feeling. Because one of the things that we do know, one of the things that we're still exploring as we learn more about the body, and this very intimate and interesting dance between the fascia itself and the muscle itself, is that whenever we tense, whenever we're responding to anxiety and tension and fear in the world, whether it's physically or psychologically, emotionally, at the level even of belief systems, this will register in this system, in this muscular, skeletal, fascial system. So this is a contraction, this is a density, this is a tension. And so if we're stuck in that pattern, if we're stuck in that habit of just contracting based on what the environment is doing, then we get out of balance, let's say, and we feel it. It doesn't feel good. It feels like we're living in a set of clothes that are 5 times too small. So to start to explore, is there a way to get some distance? Is there a way to redefine my relationship to my thinking, my feeling, my body, that's, I'm going to say, independent of the external world? Is there a way to work with that so we can keep this vibration open and flowing and enlightened, no matter what's happening in the outer world? And again, doesn't mean we ignore the outer world or be irresponsible, but we're working here with our energetic responses, how we receive and how this tension gets stored in this system. This intimate dance of skeleton, fascia, and muscle, and how it's holding this vibration that can be incredibly dense. Good, so let's come out of this as well. So if you're on your belly, you can just press up
If you're got the knees open, you want to release that arm if you have it over the lower back. Support yourself with that arm front, release that arm. And then wherever you are, let's just take, you can either stretch out on your belly. I want to release the hips, or you can roll on your back and let the legs relax out. We're going to go into the shoulders a little bit more, but let's first relax the knees and the hips. So just come, I think on the back is best. You can let everything relax and open the legs a little bit. You can even maybe put the arms over the head and just really let the ribs open. And then it really leads to a beautiful exploration. And please don't take my word for it. Don't take my word for anything, obviously. But it leads to this exploration of how ultimately we are responsible for our feelings, no matter what is happening. And we can start to break these habits of, if that's happening, I'm going to get triggered and I have to feel this way. If that's happening, I get triggered, I get touched off, I have to feel this way. And then we want to fix that, or we want to blame that, or we want to push that away, or we want to correct it. Are we able to see that, oh no, whatever is out there that's triggered, I'm responsible for that. That's my feeling. How do I work with that internally? And this is the beginning of really of a certain kind of liberation, not ultimate liberation, but a liberation of just being more free and reestablishing a saner relationship with the external world. Okay, so come on up then, and big bolster again, or collection. I'm going to actually add to this, so you can build however high you want. It depends on how open the shoulders are. It can even be done without any bolstering or just a small bolster. But what I'm going to suggest here is, maybe that's enough. No, I'll put the little bolster on top. So it just depends on how much space and flexibility you have in the shoulders. But what we're going to do, and you can do this if you want to go back into not as wide, but just a little bit to get the hips between the heels. It could be done this way. What I'm doing is I'm going to put both hands with elbows straight onto this height with my elbows straight, and then relax my head down. Yep. So if I was too low, my head would just touch the floor, and there wouldn't be this compression between the head going towards the floor and the shoulders. Also, this can be done flat on the belly. Let me see if I lay this way. Yeah, it's nice flat on the belly too, because you can just give those hips a rest. So flat on your belly, and then whatever height you have here, both hands up, elbows straight, and then you can just relax your head. Yep. So maybe even I would have a little bit more height, but that's okay. I've already done this this morning. And this is it here. So again, whatever height works for you, even if you just have something a bit depending on your shoulders, as I said. And again, we won't be here too long. I know it. I say that, and then it seems like forever, but luckily, forever and now are the same thing. So I cover myself that way. Just allow yourself to feel as deeply as you can. Allow yourself to feel into this soup of the cells themselves and the
ground substance of the body, the bones and the joints, and to see if you can avoid having to diagnose or label, or even wish it wasn't there, but just feel it. This is your body expressing just a lifetime of energies that have become intensified, dense, woven into the fabric of what you feel. There's absolutely nothing to figure out. We just want to feel this aliveness, and where it may be congested a bit and where it may be open a bit, and that interplay and dance between the two. And then if something interesting arises, please follow the thread. Any threads that arise, follow them. They're all going to lead you back to the same place. They're all going to lead you back to the same place, yes. And what this place is who you are at your essence, an open, spacious field of awareness. So anything you can think, anything you can feel, any bodily sensations are simply arising and dissipating within this awareness. So follow the threads and see, you can follow them both ways. Where do they come from? Where do they originate? Excuse me, where do they come from? That would be where they originate. And then where do they go? It's such a lovely way to explore the body. The background, the ground of being is open awareness. And then everything that happens within it is for us to explore.
Okay, so let's come on up from here. And let's just keep going just a little bit longer with the shoulders, and then we'll put that to rest. So just come on up and sit in front of this little edifice that you built. And you may or may not want to use the same height because we're going to go back. So you may want to take a few layers down, or you may only be able to interlock the fingers with no height if we want to be able to straighten the elbows. So that's up to how you're feeling. But if you have a little something back here, then we'll just sit in front of it. It doesn't matter. You might want to keep the legs open, or you could cross the legs if you'd like. And then interlock the fingers. Yep. And then try to straighten the elbows and place them up on your height. We want to keep the spine relatively elongated if you can, so that the chest is up. And then once you've established position, go in between some moments of being just perfectly still and really feeling that, vibration that is dense and the vibration that is open, and then allowing some intuitive movement. And also allow some intuitive breathing here. So to just breathe and feel any micro movement, any expansion, any blockages. And again, we're not breathing into it to deliver oxygen. That's a different system. We are breathing to feel this, this lovely, delicate, sensitive micro movement of the body. It's really quite amazing what we can feel when we just
inhale and expand the breath a bit, and how the body responds, how we exhale. And this is a sensitivity we want to cultivate for sure. If you feel like you're holding some tension in the jaw area, the facial muscles, you can allow the mouth to open, bring the jaw side to side, stretch out the face muscles, let the head go back and forth. And even if the tension feels, discrete and separate and isolated, it's not. It's so incredibly connected. This is the connective tissue. It communicates at the level of quantum coherence simultaneously. It's where our very, very basic life force travels through. It's how our organs communicate. So we're not really interested in isolating something and fixing it. We're more interested in bringing breath and flow and openness and movement to the whole system. What was I saying? I said something earlier to someone before class that a healthy system is one that knows how to heal itself. And we're simply opening up the pathways between these systems, between these processes. If we have contraction, if we have blockage, if our energy is stagnant at this level, then yes, then the body will get our attention, either through mild aches and pains or right up to disease. So what we're attempting to do is feel into the universal system, how we feel at the level of flow. And then the healing, well, the system knows how to do that. It's incredibly intelligent. Good, so let's release the arms. That was a nice exploration of the shoulders. And now let's lay down and we'll take a little longer rest and we'll be done with the shoulders for a while. This is why, part of this, container, I said earlier that we're simply, holding a container for ourselves to explore ourself. But, part of that exploration is how and what we listen to. So we begin to recognize, part of the maturing into a healing process is a recognition that we are getting feedback all of the time, 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. We're getting feedback, psychological, emotional, physical, spiritual feedback. And so if we've allowed ourselves to relax into ruts and grooves and samsaras, then we don't listen as well. We're listening to the habit. We're listening to the reverberation of the collective past, if you will. So what we're attempting to do is listen in an increasingly intelligent and sensitive way. And that can be at any level, when we need to rest, when we need to step back and just sit quietly and watch the clouds go by, when we need to exercise, when we need to stop eating this and start eating that, when we need to listen to music, when we need to read something technical. And this is different all of the time. So to start to, break out of these habits, there's see if I can remember a quote from the Upanishads. The addictions and consolations of samsara are sweet in the beginning and bitter in the end. The addictions and comforts of samsara, sweet in the beginning, bitter in the end. And this is, in a way, what I'm saying, that when we start something initially that gives us comfort and pleasure, this can turn into a habit very quickly. And we let it turn into a habit and we become habitual and we're moving mechanically and we're listening to other than our intuitive intelligence, sweet in the beginning, bitter in the end. So the yoga and the opening up of the intelligence and the flow and the healing capacity of the system takes a very special kind of listening, sensitivity, when to push, when to pull. Okay, so let's come on up, please. And again, I'm going to use this large bolster. If you don't have it, just build something that's equivalent to it. We're going to arch the back over it. But I want to show you something just so you have a visual on it and you're sort of expecting it, because you may want to do it a little before I recommend it. So again, my timing is just a framework. Move more at your timing, whether you're in class with me or not, if you're doing it on your own. So your timing really comes first. So what I'm going to suggest is put this big bolster crossways, sit on the floor, and place it anywhere below the shoulders. So it may work best just right below the shoulders so the shoulders can come off of it. You may want to scoot up a little bit and get it more mid into the lumbar. As long as the buttocks doesn't tilt up, we want the stability and support. And then want to be able to rest the head on something. So if you're not able to put the head on the floor, that feels unsafe, then get yourself a blanket or something so it feels safe. Yeah. So we're going to spend some time here. The other thing you can do, if you have the pillows, you can just manage it so the intensity doesn't feel unsafe. But if you're using a big bolster and you need to, you can always bring the hips up and sit on a blanket. Yeah. And so sometimes I'll even start this way, like, oh yeah, that's good. And then when things start to relax and feel safe, I'll pull that blanket out and go a little bit deeper. But anyway, we're going to be here for a while.
And then what I'm going to suggest is to put the left foot on the floor and roll over onto the right rib. So this is just to support the rolling. So not so much the armpit, not so much the waist, but the rib cage. The legs can either be bent or straight, but the important thing here is to take then the left arm when you're on the right ribs and really extend it over the head. So this is just going to pull this rib cage apart. Well, hopefully not pull it apart, but you know what I mean. Stretch in between those intercostals and whatever else is in there. Oh, yeah. So we'll do that for a while. We'll put the left foot back on the floor, and back here, go to the other side. But what I'm suggesting, the reason I'm showing it to you is if you want to do this sooner, feel free to do this. So listen to that kind of like, oh, it's time to release the muscular tension. Let this happen, go back to the backward bend. It just always changes everything when you listen to your body that way. Okay, so we'll just come into the backward bend, please. And maybe, I don't know if I need to show it, not really, but no, I don't. If you have the pillows, just let the back of the head be on a blanket on the floor so we're not on the shoulders and we have a nice arch to the back. Yes. What really becomes beautiful about just a quiet, personal yoga exploration is that at some point we get to experience that it's not really about the body. You know, I think in early stages we really want to like push and pull and figure it out, and you know, and this has certainly been part of the
the distortion of yoga, migrating to, modern cultures and being so obsessed with the physical. But the body at some level is just, transparent vibration permeated with empty knowing. The transparent vibration permeated by this open awareness. And so once we relax with that, and once we just allow the yoga posture to do its work, and it does, the consequences of a yoga posture are going to happen naturally. This is a natural evolution. And then we can turn our attention, we can sit back in this empty knowing, if you will, this open awareness, and start to see that the thoughts themselves that we become so enamored with, that have become so important to us, have absolutely nothing to do with us at this level of this empty knowing. Thoughts just simply come and they simply go. And as I was suggesting earlier about the threads of the body, where do they originate and where do they dissipate to? The same thing with the thoughts. They just arrive and they just fade. So our, part of what we can explore is what happens if we just do not invest interest or energy in the content. So let me say that again. A thought arises. That's just going to arise. Don't try to fight it. We don't try to do anything with it. But what if we stopped investing energy or interest in it? What if we stopped fueling the thoughts and just stayed with that which is not a thought? And it doesn't matter if this is a thought that seems blissful and important, or if it seems fearful or contracted, if it seems preoccupied with something that is so necessary to your survival. We don't want to discriminate. We don't want to pick and choose. We don't want to fuel them. We don't want to have interest in them. We don't want to give them any energy at all, except to just allow them to float up and float away. And then we stay, we can recede, we can relax, we can breathe and be with what is left, or not even what's left, just what is the isness without the thinking, or without the interest in the thinking. And I know that may be maybe a lot to take in, a bit, even a bitter pill to swallow, that your thoughts have nothing to do with you, because then so much of our identity is really connected to this stream of thinking, this habitual thinking, this historical thinking, this relation to memory, achievement, identity, etc. So the contraction then initially is, well, then who am I without these thoughts? Exactly. That's the question. Who am I without these thoughts? Is there a place I can truly rest? Is there an awareness that is free of, beyond, if you will, the thinking process, the feeling process even? Am I aware that I'm aware? So if you have not already gone to your ribs, let's do that now if you would like to. So what I'm suggesting here is to put the left foot on the floor and just roll over onto the broadest part of the right rib cage, yeah? So it's pretty much a straight line of the body. And let the legs do as they will, whatever feels most stable. I'm just letting my head dangle, but certainly you could pull some support under the head. And then let that left arm come right over the head with the elbow as straight as you can. So if I remove the support for my head, it actually brings it into the neck as well. So if you feel safe to do that, you can do that. The tendency will just be to bend that arm to release the whatever's happening along the ridges of that that left rib cage. So just kind of play with that. Bring the arm behind the head a little bit, stretch it out a little more, and we'll just stay here for a bit. Really nice place to gently but deeply breathe. So very seldom do we have opportunities to really stretch the ribs and stretch these muscles in between the ribs. So this is once these start to tighten and close up, the intercostals, it certainly affects how deeply we can breathe. And feel free to play with this a little bit. So if you want a little movement, you know, to the side or play with that arm, it's just this, you know, whenever we do something that we're not habitually doing, you know, this lateral flexion of the spine, we're going to find all these little nooks and crannies of tightness and little points and resistances. So, you know, everything is open to exploring. So we never want to think that we're doing this practice in a linear way where, you know, if we do this, that happens, and then this will happen, and then we'll reach this point where everything will be, you know, back to normal. Probably you've figured this out, but you know, we're not going back to that imaginary normal. So it's just changing and shifting, and it's just how we can just contemplate and sit with and really start to be interested in this this awakening to our true nature. It doesn't have to be extraordinary or mystical, or it's just a simple recognition that I am aware, I am conscious, I'm present. And what is it that's arising in this presence that is useful and allows me to grow and thrive? And what is it that's arising in this presence, this awareness, that is holding me back, that is no longer serving me? We have to see it first. We have to be willing to allow the discomfort to stay within that presence. So let's put that left foot back on the floor. That's a good thing, again, just for safety. So you have that stability in the lower spine. And we'll come back through this backward bend, and then we'll roll over to the left side. Yeah, so rolling to the left side, same thing. You can let the legs relax out straight. You can bend them just for some support. The main thing is, see, I'm a little in my armpit there, and I don't want to be in the armpit, and I don't want to be in the waist. I want to be on the rib cage. And then the right arm is the weight. This is drawing
the resistance, drawing your attention to the resistance. That's what the weight of the body's doing. That's what the position is doing. And then our invitation is to not resist the resistance, but find a place where we're allowing it to be and then open to exploring it. The body is transparent, vibration, permeated with empty knowing. And so the yoga allows us to begin to flush out all of the residues of a sense of a strong persona, a sense of me, a story about ourselves. And this relates to what I was saying about the thoughts have nothing to do with you. So our string of thoughts, the reoccurring, obsessive, preoccupied thoughts, this is the same thing as having a story about ourselves that we're constantly, it's in the background. It's who we think we are. So the yoga is giving us time when we start to see that, oh, that thought arises and it dissipates. I can't find the thread of its beginning. I can't find the thread of its dissolution. Am I this empty knowing? This is just slowly flushing out the residue of this sense of solidity about the story of who we are and resting in this more expansive knowing, this empty knowing. This, in religious terms, we would call it divine presence. And so we take it slowly. We allow this residue to be permeated with the breath, to soften a bit. This is the exploration. This is the contemplation. There's no right way to do it. There's no schedule or there's no checklist. So if you'd like to roll back into the backward bend, that's what we're going to do now. So wherever you were, roll back into the backward bend and make any adjustments. If you had it high up, you may want to bring it down into the lumbar. If you were in the lumbar, you may want to bring it just under the shoulders. You may want to sit on a little blanket. So you might want to elevate those hips a bit. It's so funny, just teaching with this screen. So I suggest to sit on a blanket, and I bring a blanket out to show you, like you forgot what a blanket was. And what a wise teacher. He taught us what a blanket was today. Oh, Lord, where is this all headed, huh? Hopefully right back to where it all started. And just to, what I said earlier, where is this all headed? When we really let in, when we really absorb and just sit without judging or figuring out that the present moment and eternity are the same thing, that answers the question, where is it all headed? It's not like we have this moment
And then we have the next moment, and we had a couple of moments before then, and we're going to have more moments. There's only the moment, there's only the present, and the present and eternity are the same thing. This is where we just rest. This is where we just sit. This is where we just sit in pure awareness and let it all play out. Let the story play out, let the thoughts play out, let the feelings play out. It's just as if we were in a really deep sleep and having this incredible dream, either an ecstatic dream or a fearful dream. And then we just wake up and it's like, it all just arose and it all just dissipated in consciousness. So I'm going to suggest we come out of this backward bend. Good to put your both feet flat on the floor, bend the knees. You can either maybe go back and forth to the ribs a little bit first if you want to go back there and revisit that, or you may want to shift your body back a bit and put the pelvis up on the bolstering or your pillows, soften that lumbar area, or you may just you're ready to come out and you just want to roll out. So after this, again, we'll take a rest. So come out safely and lie down flat and we'll take a rest. One of the reasons that yoga really emphasizes the nature of direct experience, how to and what it actually represents to be able to stay with your direct experience, is because part of the wisdom that we're attempting to just relax into. I was going to say cultivate, but not. There's nothing to cultivate. Part of the wisdom that we're really wanting to relax into is a natural state of clarity. And not clarity about something, just this all-pervasive clarity. So then the direct experience reveals itself. We don't have to refer to memory. We don't have to refer to some theory that someone else came up with about it. We're able to say, oh, this is my direct experience. I have such a sense of clarity about it. So in a way, yoga allows us to begin to heal from confusion. And it's part of the listening that I was talking about earlier, and I do think, it has a cultural context. The historical roots of India came from a time when you could just sit out in the forest all day. You could, structure your life in a quiet way that you could process and go to sleep at night fully contented because you've processed all the information that came to you. Now we have so much information, and we have just our species chattering to our species at this rate that is almost incomprehensible. So the availability of clarity becomes somewhat clouded. So yoga is a way for us to, sit with our body, feel our body, breathe into our body, allow the nature of thinking to really be exposed and explored, the nature of feeling as well, and come into a sense of clarity, and then direct contact with experience, and allow that intuitive wisdom of experience, call it life, to guide us. It's just really beautiful in that way. And just the power and the depth that clarity provides for us. And this is different for everyone because we all find our equilibrium at different points in different ways. Well, let's come on up and do some more. I think maybe after the shoulders and the back, it might be good to come forward a bit. So 2 options for the first. We're going to do 2 forward bends here, but an option for the first one. Well, there'll be options for the second one too. Let's start by extending the right leg out, so it's nice and relaxed. We're not holding it in a tight way for the quadricep. And then we'll just simply take this left leg and bring it over and back towards the right hip. Now, you could stay here in this half position. This is called the half shoelace because we're kind of tying up the legs. But if you would like, you can take this right leg and also pull it back towards the left hip. Just don't sit on the heel, so no pressure on the heel. So make sure that the both hips are relatively even. I say relatively because mine are torquing a little bit, but don't sit on this right heel is what I'm suggesting. So either this full shoelace pose or with the bottom leg stretched out, your choice. For this, it's nice to have something to come forward, especially if there's some tightness in the hip, so some support, bolster or pillows. Shall I show you? No, I was going to show you a pillow, but you know what a pillow is. And come down really slowly. This is torquing a lot of different things. We think it's, a forward bend primarily for the lower back, but the knees, the ankles, especially the hips are involved here. A bit of the pelvis is involved. And let the upper body be very, very generous in where it finally lands. It doesn't necessarily need to bring the forehead towards the right knee. So you can come over to the right a little bit, over to the left a little bit. So you just want to kind of torque into something that is appropriate to relax and breathe and just come into this this quiet internal place of clarity. And then anything that arises that is uncomfortable, it doesn't matter. Slight irritation, something bigger than that, just simply don't avoid it. Don't suppress it. Just face it. Just let it come up. And then whatever the residue is, whatever you want to let go of around the edges, take your time, be patient with yourself.
Good. So let's come on up from here. And what I'm going to try to do, and you may not want to do it this way, but what I'm going to try to do from here. So we have this full shoelace pose, yes, or some of us do, with this right leg bent underneath, the left leg on top. I'm going to try to just shift it. So to bring the right leg forward a bit. If you have the right leg extended in the half pose, bring it in. And then we'll take the left leg and put it somewhere on top of this right leg. So right leg is on the bottom at a 90-degree angle to the body. Left leg is on top. You can bring it down on the calf if you'd like. Or I said there'd be choices. If this is not accessible, just put it out on a blanket in front of you so you can open it up a bit. Just I was trying to keep some of the tightness of the first one into this one, and we'll go back into the hips, but in this open way. So either open or up onto, you could have it up onto the knee if you wanted to. This is perfectly acceptable square, or you could bring it down a bit. And then again, the forward bend is relaxed from the top of the skull, the upper spine, through the range of the mid-back, right down into the sacral lumbar. So easy, relaxed. I think one of the things that is really important to be aware of, that that the language, the limitation of our language. Yeah, so I can talk about feeling the warmth of the sun on my face this afternoon, but it's not, that is not the warmth of the sun on my face. So when I use words like awakening or liberation or enlightenment or being aware of being aware, this is very limited. The language is very limited. And I've come to a place in my own practice where I really feel that just simply being able to genuinely relax and trust the wisdom of life itself, and have great compassion for oneself, to really be able to contemplate. And this is where the clarity is so important, what self-love is. So to just simply be patient with oneself and relax, to trust whatever it is you trust. And again, calling it life is limiting it. Calling intelligence is limiting it. Call it whatever you would like to call it, it's going to limit it. But whatever we trust, to really trust it, to cultivate a genuine sense of self-kindness, that's the best we can do.
And then whatever appears, wherever that patience and that trust and that the self-love takes us, that's where it takes us. So it doesn't need to be fancy. It doesn't need to be esoteric or challenging or mystical. Nothing wrong with that if we like that. But to sometimes to simplify our our practice can be a really valuable thing. And this is why I went through the principles of the yin earlier, because even with our hatha yoga, just to keep it simple, just to connect with your body, just to come into a forward bend, just to move the energy, just to breathe deeply. This is all yoga. But even the word yoga is a severe limitation on what it actually is, the vibration of it in the moment, and only we can experience that. This is what I mean by direct experience, clarity around direct experience. Good. So let's come on up from here, if you will, please. Yay. And so we'll just maybe try to remember we have this left leg on top, but let's let the legs open out. Hallelujah to that. And get yourself, so let the knees relax, yes, and get yourself a nice roll. So blanket or towel, I'm using a towel here. I'm not suggesting the little bolster, because to roll a towel up nice and tight with a roll is a little bit different. And what I'm able to do then is adjust the depth by how high it's going to be. And what I'm going to suggest, I'm going to just unroll it a bit, is to sit on the floor, keep it snugged in. We certainly want the buttocks on the floor, and let it just sink up into the low back. So nice and low as you can go with keeping the buttocks on the floor. And then bring the upper body down. Make sure it's just right. And so what's nice from here is if it's not, you can elevate the hips and roll it up a bit or unroll it a bit, adjust, put it back in, get the butt back on the floor, and then when it's just right, let the legs relax out. So this can just be mild to moderate, always mild to moderate. We don't really need to go past moderate. It's just, it just depends how far into moderate and how backing off to mild. But, lower backs are tricky, very tricky, especially if you own a chair or a car. Lower backs are tricky. And when I suggest to trust what you trust, I'm not referring to a belief system. I'm not referring to a set of ideas or thoughts that we've picked up along the way and formed into this nice package that we then believe in. No, I'm not talking about belief at all. I'm talking about a much deeper, intuitive experience of trusting. And so this is very, very personal, and this is to, um, give the intellect its proper place. And certainly it has a role in what we trust, but we also want to, be able to feel our feet on the earth. We want to feel the wind in our face. We want to be able to look up at the night sky full of stars without expectations. And in our bones, in the flow of our blood, in the pulsation of our heart, we want to know what we trust, and then trust it. And then if a belief system or a set of ideas helps us to play with that, fun to play with that, fun to converse about that, fine. But we want to be able to make that distinction between a belief system that we're holding on to in some intellectual way and a deeper sense of equilibrium where we're trusting something that is beyond words, that the words can only point to. And then we have something that we can really contemplate, or we can just sit in quiet clarity with. And this then becomes our guidance system. We know it when we trust it and it's good. We follow it and we grow and we learn. When we don't trust it, it feels bad and we want to make a little adjustment. So if you're in an interesting place and you just want to stay right where you are, please do. And I'm assuming everybody's still, if you need to take the roll out, you could take the roll out for this as well. But if you could keep it in, it's lovely to keep it in. So either way, let's put the feet on the floor and just let the knees go to the right. Yeah, so you can adjust that top leg. Sometimes I'll walk that left foot over to the left a little bit, make some room in the hips. So just allowing that roll to compress up a little bit more into the right hip there. So this is good. If you want to bring those legs up, yeah, and then let them go to the other side. So we'll go to the left side now. And then usually the left leg is fine where it falls because it's the way that left hip is. But if you want to walk that right foot a bit and just find an opening, a little, sometimes I'll even push it forward a bit, walk it a little to the right. So it's a lot of weight there for between the thigh and the knee and the calf and all of that weight kind of pulling in, especially with a little bit of pressure on that left side. So. The comforts and consolations of samsara are sweet in the beginning and bitter in the end. Lucky for us that we have the option to just simply wake up to the beauty and the power and the expansiveness of the present moment. Good, so let's bring those knees back up and you can straighten them out. So we'll just come back for a little bit longer into this, this compression, just to let the twist kind of dissipate a bit. And then when you feel ready, you can put your feet on the floor and just elevate the hips and remove that, the blanket, the roll blanket, yeah. And then what I would like to do, if we could just stay here for just a little bit longer, and you can keep the feet on the floor for this, it's very nice to do that way, is just inhale and let the spine arch up a bit. So you can even press the belly up on the inhale. And you'll feel this a little bit of micro movement. It naturally wants to do it, but you can press it a little bit and then exhale and let the spine flatten back down to the floor. And keep exhaling a little bit longer till the lower belly starts to contract and you're really emptying the lungs out and letting the respiratory diaphragm contract up. And just do this for a couple of times. Inhale, just gently press so this is a lovely, mild, gentle, sensitive backward bend here. Just arching that lumbar area on the breath, the inhale, exhale, press it down. Yay, yay, yay. And this is a lovely thing to do if you're experiencing any sense of injury or sensitivity, to still get the movement. So you may not do a full backward bend or a backward bend with a bolster, but you can inhale, let that spine press and arch, exhale, and let it relax back down and press it a little bit. So at any level, the movement is valuable. You just have to sort of modulate it to what your needs are. Good. So let's come on back up. And let's consider doing the other side of that forward bend. So we'll this time, we'll keep the left leg out and we'll bring the right leg up and over so that right foot's coming back a bit towards this left hip. And then again, you can stay in this half position. It's a lovely position. Or if you'd like to bring the left foot in, and again, try not to sit on that left heel with the right hip this time. So it's just a nice shoelace. And then just again, let your shoulders relax. Really do let the shoulders relax. Really feel the whole weight of the skull. Soften into the back line and we'll just come forward here. Lovely. So let's emerge from here. And I'd like to give you, I'd like to give you a third choice. So as you come up, what we did last time is we kept that left leg. If you have the left leg out straight, we brought it in, and then we took the top leg and either put it on the calf or the knee, or put it out front. So this would be what we did on the other side. But if you would like to go back to where we began, feel free to do that, to take the bolster or your pillows and blankets and put it under the knees. Yeah, so you either have the square pose, but we did a lot with the hips and the knees. So if you'd like to just go back to that way to isolate, soften everything else and get right back into the lumbar. So this would be just an option, your choice completely. So either that forward bend with the support or this lovely square pose forward. You never know how the body's going to react. Sometimes it opens a bit and it's ready for, deepening, and sometimes it's like, oh, that was enough and I need to back off and relax. You never know what's around the corner. And yoga just gives us this, beautiful, and I do think a rare opportunity in this world to start to make a discernment between self-inquiry and self-improvement. You and we are beings that are breathed by oneness. How could we possibly need to improve? We are beings that are breathed by oneness. This is yoga. So you can either stay in this position for the rest of the night. You can come up and sit with me to formally close, or you can unfold and lie down and come into your own Shavasana. And we'll sit quietly for a few moments or lie quietly for a few moments and allow ourselves to be breathed by oneness. Namaste.